Welcome back to the Fake Straight Podcast. I'm the host, your girl, Tanara. Please note that the opinions expressed by any guests on this show do not necessarily represent my views or the views of Fake Straight Media. This podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is advised. Grab your favorite beverage or mine, a glass of champagne, clink clink, and let's get into it, y'all. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Fake Straight Podcast. I'm your host, your girl, Tanara. I am so happy to have y'all on. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Lauren, and I am from Houston. I actually checked out one of your episodes, and I was like, hey, she's giving me vibes from 2014, 2015. But my pronouns are she and her. I guess you can get away with a they because some people are confused about my facial hair. I identify as lesbian, queer, never really had to put a label on it. I just love me some women.
Love it. Okay.
I'm Nathalie, and I'm from Orlando, Florida. You can call me she, her. In terms of labels, it's kind of weird for me because I don't really claim lesbian, even though I am in a lesbian relationship. This is my first lesbian relationship, and it's really...
Oh, you're like a baby lesbian. That's my second.
I mean, I kind of just like dove in. I was like, whatever. I'm happy. Like
on paper, she's a baby lesbian, but this girl just was like, "What's a U-Haul?" Like we all in.
I was like, what you have to say?
She had so much courage, at the beginning, and I'm just like, how?
Yeah, like you were just like gay immediately.
I mean, honestly, it was like I just kind of just dove right in because it just felt so right and it felt so natural. I've never really been one to label myself. Technically, traditionally, I could call myself straight. I wouldn't even call myself bi. I think what really connects with me is just like fluid and open and just like whatever,
I love that. So tell us how y'all met.
We met in 2019. We were in South Korea, in Seoul, and we were there to teach English, and she was there four and a half years.
I was there for about 4.5 years before she came to South Korea. Mm-hmm. And even though we came to South Korea for the same reasons, both to teach English at 2 different times, when I arrived in Korea, I recognized there was like a lack of like Black women diversity and just real Black women showing their experiences of what it's like being in a Asian country, being a minority within a minority population. And so I knew going in, I wanted to start a YouTube channel. And so that's really what I did. I started a YouTube channel. Just documenting my experiences. At the time, it was called Traveling Nat. And that channel accumulated quite a following over the 4.5 years I was there. And by my 4th year, I knew I was about to be like leaving Korea. I'm like, all right, it's about time to like transition out and move into the next phase of my life. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what? I want to have a YouTube.
Were you coming back to the States or were you?
Yeah, I was planning. Yeah, I was planning on coming back to the States because for me, Korea was more so of a strategic career move that kind of turned from 1 year into like a 5-year stint. That was not supposed to happen, but it is what it is.
I'm gonna tell you what she told me. She was moving back to the States to find a man. She didn't finding one in Korea. So she was like, let me, among other things, but I just thought I'd add that in.
There's a big like a military population, a U.S. military population in Korea, and so I was actively dating there, but it was a very sad.
Cool.
Yeah, it was.
I understand.
Not that great. And so I got to the last year, and I'm like, all right, there's multiple things why I want to go back to the States. I want to, grind, work up the career ladder, start a family, do all these things that I had in mind to do. So let me throw this YouTube meetup as like a gathering of Black women brought together by my YouTube channel and just like celebrating a good time. And that's how we met.
Someone who I taught with, when we first come to Korea, they do a whole like orientation thing. So I had a few friends and she was like, oh, come with me to this event. This Black girl who is known in Korea. She's having this event. I want you to come with me. And I'm like, okay, cool. To this day, she feels like I should have known her because that's how big she was in Korea.
I was about to say flips, Natalie. It's like the black girl that's known.
I was like, girl, how do you not come across my YouTube channel? I'm like 68,000. Come on, girl.
Oh my gosh. She did not come across. And
you were over there acting like Simone Biles' husband. He's like, I had no idea who she was. I didn't know.
It's just the things that she was talking about. I would eventually ran across it, but I'm like, what is my accommodation going to look like? What is my job going to look like? And so I haven't yet gone through the subjects she was going through, like
what
going
is it
over.
Like being black in Korea or like.
I didn't care. I was like, it's a homogenous country. I'm going to stick out no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
So, so the event was at a Jamaican restaurant in Korea. Yeah. And it was so many black women there. In my mind, I was like, man, I'm single. I'm not trying to be in a relationship because I was a serial dater for a long time. And I was just like, let's just see what happens. And I actually, on the night I met her, even though I had in my mind, man, Natalie can get it. I was like, she's straight as hell.
Look, everybody is straight until they're not. Everybody is straight until they're not. That's what I always say.
In my mind, though, I'm like, I don't know. I actually had eyes for her friend.
I heard that story.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. She cute. She, we kind of like hit it off for about 2 weeks. And this girl invited us, the friend invited me into her circle. And I started hanging out with her house more often. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. My attention is turning this way instead of with the girl. And at that event, let me tell you this. At that event where I first met her, we were taking a picture together. She was taking a picture with all of her guests. And I think I had one drink, but I had liquid courage this night.
Yes.
And she was taking a picture, and then we were like, okay, next person. I said, wait, I'm not done yet. I was like, where did this come from? But I had all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And she said she remembered that.
I was like, okay. It was memorable. That moment was memorable for me. And I was just like, okay.
So I'll skip to when I closed it off with the friend. I did close it off with a friend, and I allowed her to tell her once it got far enough. Mm-hmm. But I think it was maybe 3 weeks or a month later where this time gap was like, I'm interested in Natalie. Like, how do I get in where we're not a trio or like 4 people hanging together? I need to be with her so I can get to know her. Yeah. So by that month gap, we're following each other and all the people on Instagram, and we're reacting to stories and things like that. And I was like, okay, I want to stand out, a little bit. I wasn't too much, but I stood out. And she responded to one of my stories where I was. She was like, oh, I was at this location not too long ago. And I said, oh, this is my chance. This is the first time she slid in the gym tour. I said, you know what? Since you know Korea or Seoul a lot better than I do, take me to some of your favorite spots. Show me around.
Oh, yeah. I like it. I like the approach. It's not too aggressive. It's not too assertive, but you're putting yourself out there. Everyone's comfortable. I love it.
Exactly. Now it will pick up. She said she was oblivious.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was crushing.
I had no idea. So I am the kind of person, first of all, I love giving people tours around Seoul because I just love the area. I have all my favorites, and if I could go to my favorites with somebody else and like get them excited, then cool. And so she was like, oh yeah, I would love to have a little tour. And I'm like, okay, I got you. Like, let's go. We're gonna go to Hongdae. Okay, we're gonna go here, and then like I'm planning this whole thing, and I'm just so excited. But I will have to say there was definitely an energy of ease that it just made it so much easier for me to be so open to and willing to do it with her versus if it was some guy, on the street or whatnot. But yeah, that date was one of the things. Like she calls it a date. I
Yeah, it
still
was like you
feel
were
bad.
literally planning your date. Like you didn't know it, but you were planning y'all's date.
Right, I had no idea, but it was like it literally flowed so seamlessly. We went out to eat, had Korean barbecue. Then afterwards, we walked around and toured.
Had dessert. Then we had wine.
We went out to wine. Then she got her tattoo.
I was like, hey, I'm going to get a tattoo.
Yeah,
It just flowed. It was so easy. We were just talking and laughing the whole time.
yeah.
And still, she did not pick up. Like,
I was about to say, so Natalie, were you not you were completely oblivious even throughout the date. Lauren, you weren't like, the lesbian thing, gazing into people's eyes, and there's a connection. You were trying, and she was.
we were both doing it, but I think she was in the moment and didn't have time to be like, is this girl crushing on me? I never,
Yeah.
Let me tell you how it flowed even further. Where I'm like, she has to be flirting back. So in Korea, the buses and trains stop at a certain time, mostly around midnight. And it was getting close to that time. And I was 45 minutes. I was in the next city over. And I was like, well, I'm not going to make it. She was like, well, I have an extra room in my apartment. Which I've been to the apartment before with the friend.
Sure, but not on these terms.
Not with just us two. And I'll say nothing happened this whole entire night, but more talking, more wine, more conversation. Uh-huh. And I would say my old Lauren, the one was like, okay, I'm about to go with a bang.
Pimpin' Lauren was coming out. You were
like, I was like in my pocket. She's here.
I do this. This is what I do. Okay.
We went to bed that night, 2 a.m. or so. She's in her room, and I'm in the second room. And I hit her with the Nathalie, and she like, huh? Uh-huh. I'm like, you sleep? Like trying. And at that point, I was like, Lauren, don't move, don't. I was trying to listen to my inner wisdom. I was like, it ain't time. Don't try to push this further. It was a perfect night. Let it be a perfect night. And from there on, it was just like a natural flow.
That day initiated this energetic momentum between us. And I felt a lot more drawn to her. I felt compelled to kind of check in on her, see her stories. And there was just a different energy within me that I'd never felt before, and an excitement. And this is something that I had never experienced. Well, not to this extent.
Yeah.
It just felt so exciting. I was curious. I was open. I think I was at a point in my life where I was just open.
As you started processing it, was it part of you that were like, I'm not gay, I don't know what this is? Or were you just like, I'm going with it?
At that point of my life, I had reputations being the other woman. And I had multiple experiences.
She said, wait a minute.
Yeah, we're not going to breeze past this. What does that mean? Let's pause right there. What were you doing over there?
I had multiple experiences where I would be in situationships with men. And these men would either be relationships or kind of like in between relationships.
Got it.
And so they were kind of like floating in and out of what they were doing. And I was kind of just always there. Through the course of all the relationships and the situationships I've had, I started learning and I honestly made a vow to myself, like, I'm never putting myself in a position where I am the other person. Or like, that's not happening. The story of our relationship is that every move that we made, there was intentionality behind the move, behind what we did, because we both individually were on our own healing journey from our past relationships and what was so unfulfilling and so hurtful. And I'll speak for myself, I just didn't want to be put in situations again where I was continuously hurt and felt like a piece of meat, essentially.
How long had it been since the first date and you expressing your feelings for Nathalie?
I expressed my feelings for Nathalie on the weekend after Thanksgiving.
So how long?
So that was about a month, about 4 to 5 weeks.
And then 4 or 5 weeks later, she asked me to marry her. That was like the official. That was the official. Or like, we go together.
You move fast, okay? It's, I was telling someone this because they were asking me, they were like, why do you think lesbians move so fast? I do think it is because of the connection that you have with someone. When that connection feels so strong, you're like, why would I fight this? The other thing I realized, I think that I don't want to sound toxic like Kevin Samuels. I don't want to say high value, but like when you're used to having that attention and people are trying to talk to you in between those like breakups, if you meet someone else that you feel like, damn, like this is a connection. I don't care if I got out of a relationship 3 days ago. I don't care if we've been talking for 9 days. Let's move in. So
That's real.
yeah, it's like
No,
you're
that's
like,
real.
yeah, this person's available. This person's single now. It's like go.
And I guess my theory on that too of why we move so fast is I don't know what it is, but in my experience, when your walls are down and when you meet somebody that encourages you to keep your walls down,
Yeah,
then it's like more opportunity for you guys to get closer
yeah,
and for you to um, get a lot further than you would when like when you're dating a man. Then I feel like 3 months of dating a man, then you're like, okay, maybe now you get to the next stage.
There's definitely more barriers when it comes to, for me at least, when it came to dating men, because I was going through like, you need to be filtered through, right?
yeah,
There's a filtering
Checkpoints.
process. Yeah, there's checkpoints you got to reach, right? And not saying like I'm playing or playing games with men, but it's more so like, all right, like how well do you respect me? Can you respect me not to and if I ask you like, or if I say like, I'm not interested in anything physical right now, like, will you respect that boundary?
yeah.
And in a lot of my experiences, that boundary was crossed. And it's like, all right, next, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that when it came to us connecting, and immediately I didn't have the same boundaries that set in place. First of all, it was brand new to me.
Yeah.
And then
Like, you don't know
second,
what you're supposed to be doing. Like, I don't know what's right and what's wrong. It's like you just go
right.
with it.
Right, exactly. I think I was just open, and I think one other thing that really allowed me to just release all of that is the level of safety. Is there's a
Yeah.
nurturing component. In my experience, men don't have like
Yeah.
innately. And
Yeah.
so it's like there's a certain care for your heart, for your well-being, a certain level of being seen and understood that men will never truly understand.
I don't want to speak for all men. I'll just say it's rare.
Yeah.
It's
I was
very
gonna say
rare for men.
it's not often seen. I was on a trip recently and I had a friend and they were all straight. And so they were like asking me about being a lesbian. And one of the women, she said, well, what do you enjoy? And I was like, man, it was just this and this. And I'm telling her all these things. And she's like, don't you think you can get that from a man? I was like, sis, I haven't. Like, that's what I'm telling you. I'm like, I've been dating women for 11 years. This isn't like my first rodeo. I've dated men, but I'm like, you just don't get that level of that nurturing in relationships. And, for the most part, they do what they can. But
Yeah, they do what they can and with what they have. I've had friends, and I only surround myself with men because of my lack of trust with women as far as on a friendship goes. But I just find that men are fulfilling this like archetype.
Yeah.
Archetype. There you go.
Yeah.
Where they're just acting and they're not being their authentic selves because they don't know how to be their authentic selves. And so what I found with this relationship is that I can just be myself. Like I've morphed into so many different people because I'm getting to know myself more and more. And she's just open arms. She's just like, I want to get to know you more and more with every step of the 5 years that we've been together. Right. And the same with her.
I think that's another thing that made it different for us is I'm not going into this with the expectation of, because you're masculine, soft masculine presenting, that you are going to be taking this masculine type role, like opening my doors or paying my bills or doing all this stuff. Like I didn't come with that expectation of you being like this big protector for me. Not having those expectations gave you the grounds to just kind of morph and grow and embrace fully like who you are and how you want to show up in the world.
Did you feel like those expectations were those the expectations you had with men when you were dating them? Like they're going to protect me, they're going to provide, they're going to do all of these things.
Yeah. I would definitely say, yeah, there is a different level of expectation I did have for men. And I know that's my own thing, probably my own insecurities where
No,
I feel like
I think most of us as little girls, we grow up, we're like, oh yeah, you'll get married, have kids, the man will be the provider, he'll be that. We talked about this last week. One of my friends who has been dating women now 4 or 5 years, we were talking about that's the thing we struggle with. We're like, hold on, we miss having everything paid for, having the doors open. I understand that some women are just more like that, but then others are like, yeah, no. And it's like, you can't put that expectation. Every woman, like you said, whether you're STEM, whether you're math, whether you're STEM.
I was in a relationship where she wanted me to be that person. And I realized in this relationship that sometimes us masculine presenting or soft, whatever you want to call it, there's this expectation we put on ourselves because we are trying to follow this roadmap to what we think we're supposed to be. I remember trying to be that person, opening up the doors, paying for things, being that protector. And I was like, you know what, Lauren, relax those expectations on yourself because you just being you are enough. And let the conversation be open where you're like, hey, what are your expectations? What makes you feel safe? What do you enjoy? And then you're like, oh, my baby loves when I do this. So I'm going to do it because that fuels our love or that fuels our, safety.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to intentionally do that for myself, relax those expectations.
Absolutely. I've got a good friend who she's not, people assume she's mask presenting. She is not. She is the softest woman that I know. And she always talks about like how she has trouble with that because she goes out with women and they're expecting all of these things. And she's like, can somebody buy me some flowers? Can someone do something nice for me? I think to your point, Lauren, I think it's so important that when you're with a partner, you not only talk about those expectations, but be real with yourself. Like, I actually do really like this. I do really enjoy having this done for me. And it's just the same way I gave the example of cooking and cleaning. I don't want that to be an expectation. But if I'm with a woman and she loves that I do that, one, I already love it. So I'm going to do it anyway. When it's appreciated and I know she loves it, I'm like, oh my God, how can I cater to you in that way? And so it's just that conversation between partners instead of assuming like this is the way it should be because XYZ.
Yeah, when you get to a point where you really truly learn what it is that your partner loves, what makes them happy, what makes them really glow from the inside out, what makes them feel appreciated, the love is what fuels the continuation like of giving and receiving that kind of love. Like for me, I'm definitely an acts of service person, and I love when the dishes are washed for me, or you cook for me like that. When you cook for me, I'm just like, oh my God, girl. And there's no performance that you have to do. There's no like I gotta. Right. It's like I love doing this because I see how it makes you glow.
Yeah.
Not because I feel like I have to. It's an obligation.
Y'all have been together for 5 years. I did some digging. I know y'all had a little break. Now, let's talk about this. Was it a break or was it a breakup?
This was a breakup with the intention of being back together. So during this 8-month breakup where we were both living in Florida at this time, but I moved back to Houston and we lived separately for 8 months. Before I left, we made this intention of like, hey, you are the person I want to be with. It's just that we can't figure out what we need to figure out. This is just getting too, it was really like communication issues, expectations, her getting to know herself more, or outside obligations and expectations. We were living in Florida, and her mom was diagnosed with cancer. And so it was so much going on a little bit after that pandemic. So no talking to nobody. I didn't even have the desire. And I'll let you speak for yourself, but we didn't talk to anybody.
I know I was in a very transitional space where my entire identity of who I was being challenged. And in the space of being a caregiver for my mother, showing up in the best ways that I thought I could, in addition to showing up for my job and pouring everything into my job. And then on the other end, having this relationship that I also truly cared about and wanted to make sure I was doing all that I could. Like I was pouring myself in all of these funnels that I cared about, but I was losing in the end. I tell the story like that's why my hair is locked, because I had gotten to such a point that I didn't even have time or the energy, the capacity to do my hair. So I just twisted my hair up so I could wake up in the morning to go to work, and I just never took the twist out. That's literally what happened.
Wow.
And so for me, I wasn't even in a space like trying to think about to talk to anybody else was not even within my scope, because I need to focus on giving back to myself. And I think that that's something that we really always fall back to, especially in our own practice as communication coaches, is to recognize within your own relationship, there are transitions that are happening all the time.
Yeah.
Your roles are shifting, like the balance is shifting. What used to work doesn't always work, and you always have to reconfigure and mesh and figure things out. The fight within us, like, just
we were fighting to stay together, but butting heads the whole time.
right.
Yeah.
And we just like cried, and it was painful. And it's just like, this is what we are going to do. And it was kind of that moment where you just like, you're trying to hold on so bad and you're just making stuff worse. And it was that moment where you just like let go. And the moment we let go, it was an amicable breakup, and it was so peaceful. When I asked my brother to come down to Florida to help me drive back to Houston, he said, I was coming already. I was ready to, come get your stuff and just be like, deuces. I thought that it was going to be some type of, all he knew was breakup. And all he knew was toxic breakup. He was like, that was the most bittersweet, positive breakup that I've ever seen. Like, y'all still have so much love for each other. And he said, I had to think to myself, am I toxic? What's wrong with me?
Am I the problem?
Right. And I was like, no, like, I know that we're going to be together. I know that that's my person. I know that we can make this work. It's just
How
that.
long had y'all been together before this breakup?
3.5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh my God, that would be so difficult.
Yeah, with the first 2 years being damn near perfect. We moved to DC for me to be a teacher, and we were like inseparable every day together, didn't get on each other's nerves, no arguments. It was damn near perfect.
Our relationship blossomed during COVID. Like where everybody, a lot of couples were like in the heat of like the worst time of the relationship. Our relationship was amazing. And we spent every waking moment together.
And it was honestly what kind of, if I had to say like what kind of started this road to breakup, is there was this part where, like you said, your whoever you thought you were was being challenged. I had that during the pandemic, where I had new hobbies. I was going into financial literacy, and I was teaching, and I was really redefining who Lauren was, because all this stuff was breaking inside of me. Things with my family, traumas were popping up. And so at this point, I would say that this happened for me first, and then Nathalie. So mine happened during the pandemic. Hers happened when we were living in Florida. And we just didn't have the bandwidth and the tools. And we're like, we gotta be apart to not mess this up.
Because there's so much going on before you get down to like your family unit, like the two of you. Then it's like, okay, well, siblings, parents, friends, grandparents, work. I feel like when everything is breaking down, you would think your relationship would be, that's your like covering, right? Like that's your like place that can be your retreat. But oftentimes it's not, because of the communication breakdown. So then it's like, okay, this was my haven. This was my retreat. Then everything started happening. Now, not only is all of this stuff kind of everywhere, now I'm like fighting with my partner instead of like working with her. So that's understandable.
I was going to add in there, it's because we are seeing different versions of ourselves, of each other. And as you progress in your relationship, and you start to see who is this person when they're in pain? Who is this person when they're around family? Who is this person when they're betrayed? Who is this person when, we're consistently seeing new, different versions emerging of our partner. And sometimes our partner may not even recognize that version of themselves either. And
not even aware that you can be reacting to this way. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, stop asking me stuff. This is just how I'm new to this too. And so when she's dealing with this second-handedly, then it's like, oh, this is just new territory that we're just gonna have to rough it out and get to know together.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, sometimes going through these new versions of yourselves, you have to, as the individual, get to know, who is this individual? I don't know who this girl is. I don't know who Nathalie was, being a caretaker and pouring everything that I have and being in that. I don't know who that is. I remember when she drove away, because she drove from Florida to Texas, and it was literally like a piece of me was leaving. Like, it felt like a hole. And so I had to learn, or I had to first recognize that hole that I was feeling within myself was something that I depended on her for. And even though, like, she's been my rock, she's my best friend, she is my confidant, she's like the OG, like, she's the person who I want to run and tell and do everything with. I had to sit in the discomfort of the feeling of emptiness. And recognize that emptiness is something that has always been there, but I learned to distract myself, and now I had no distractions to keep me from it. I could just focus on me.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay. So you all have an ebook out. Tell us the title of the ebook and where they can find it.
Yes, our ebook is called Fight Less, Love More: 5 Shocking Techniques to Transform Conflict and Create Emotional Safety in Your Relationship. If you are interested in this ebook, you can find it on our website at laurenandnat.com.
Yeah, definitely follow us on Instagram. That's where we're the most active. Again, at her and her girlfriend.
Of course, we'll tag them in all of the show notes and as I'm putting out this episode, so you all will be able to connect. So thank you, ladies, again. It was such a pleasure. As always, remember, you define you. Do not let others define you. Thank y'all so much for joining us for another episode of the Fake Straight Podcast. You can follow us on all the socials at Fake Straight Pod. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you want to hear more of. Tell us what you love, what you didn't love. All that good stuff. And until next time, holla.